You are listening to This is Oklahoma, hosted by Mike Hearn, telling stories of Oklahomans and those that have made it their home.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma podcast. Mike Hearn here, your host, back with another episode. Excited to share this episode with you today. But before we do, I've got to thank our sponsors. First of all, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. They've been a huge part of this podcast for the last few years. So the Oklahoma Hall of Fame have been sharing Oklahoma's story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com. And for daily updates, go to oklahomahof on Instagram and give them a follow. Our other sponsor today is the Chickasaw Nation. Now, the Chickasaw Nation have sponsored pretty much everything in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma, and it's an honor to have their name and their brand supporting this podcast. So a huge shout out to Governor Anatoby for supporting this podcast. It really means a lot. And finally, our third sponsor is 988. The Oklahoma 988 Mental Health Lifeline. 988 is a direct 3-digit lifeline that connects you with trained behavioral health professionals that can get all Oklahomans the help that they need. Learn more by visiting 988oklahoma.com. That's 988oklahoma.com. And now, let's get into today's episode. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma podcast. Mike Hearn here, host, back with another episode up in Tulsa today at the BOK Center. It's such a glamorous looking building. I never really get to see the inside of it. Well, not like I've been here to see shows and stuff, but not like, I don't know, I feel like we're down in the depths of where all the work happens, right? We're not like in the bowl or in the arena. We are in the offices and where all the magic happens. So excited to dive into the story of my guests today, Angie, Teel, and Brian Crowe. Brian's on a call, so he's going to join us a little later, but Angie's here with me. Angie, thanks so much for inviting me up here. Excited to dive into your story. But before we do dive into, I guess, everything you do on the day today, tell us a little bit about you. Tell us give the listeners some context on who Angie is and what her background is.
Sure. Thank you so much. Hello, Oklahoma. My name is Angie Teel, and I have been a resident of Oklahoma for almost 4 years now. I moved here to work at the convention center in downtown Tulsa at the beginning of 2019. I had previously worked at a venue in St. Charles, Missouri, which is a suburb of St. Louis. And I'd been there for, a little over 15 years and got the call from Tulsa to come and interview and see the city. And from wheels to wheels, flying in and leaving Tulsa, it was about 4 hours. Called my husband from the airport and I said, if I get this job, we're moving to Tulsa, Oklahoma. And he was like, okay, whatever makes you happy. And, the rest is kind of history. We've loved living here. We've loved being a part of the community. It's a very welcoming community. Everybody loves to hear the story of what's going on downtown at the convention center and the BOK Center. So talking to people is never hard. The content always kind of just comes naturally because I do get to work in the most exciting industry in the world of live entertainment and tourism and hospitality. So I'm really excited to talk to you today and share my story.
So growing up then, I mean, what was the dream growing up? Some people grow up and they just love events and they want to do this job. After talking to you for a little bit before we recorded, sounds like that was not the thing. So what was like growing up, in St. Louis and everything, what did you want to do when you grew up? Yeah,
the idea of an event in St. Louis, Missouri is going to a St. Louis Cardinals game or a Blues game. And those are always fun and exciting. But when I was growing up, I honestly wanted to be a physical therapist. And, that didn't really pan out. When I got to college, I went to Missouri State University in Springfield, Missouri, and fell in love with the business program there and realized that I liked the little bit of black and white of business, but I also loved the ability to be creative and you can really turn anything into a business. So I thought that was really cool. And then after graduation, I was working at a entertainment complex called NASCAR Speed Park. And I got engaged, and I was working with the lady at the hotel that we were going to have our reception. And a month before the wedding, she was like, hey, by the way, I'm leaving to go work at a convention center. And my first reaction was, what's a convention center? I had no idea what a convention center was and the impact that it had on the community. So, shortly after I got married, I was working at the convention center there in St. Charles, and I was there for about 15 years. It was a fairly new building, about 2 years old when I started there. So coming to Tulsa, where the convention center here was built in the 60s, the first part of the building was built in the 60s, it had such a great history and an impact on the community. One of the things that I loved when I first moved here is hearing those I remember when stories about the building, which is something I never really experienced being in my previous building that was fairly new. I didn't really truly understand the impact that a building like a convention center or an arena has on the community. Building those memories and creating jobs and opportunities and being able to really showcase your city and what people could do to come and be educated and be inspired by attending a session or going to a wedding, or we do a lot of sports events at the convention center. So being there for winning that gold medal or winning that first place trophy, that you really do get a lot of those really cool experiences here in Tulsa. And I love hearing those stories. I really, really do. It puts a smile on my face, because that's why I do what I do, is because we do get to create those memories that people hold on to for the rest of their lives.
So when you came to Tulsa for the interview, had you been to Tulsa before that?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. My predecessor at the convention center, her and I were good friends, and that was basically the experience of Tulsa, Oklahoma I had, was through her eyes and through what she had to say about it. So, but when I got here, it completely blew me away. The close-knit community, the philanthropic community here in Tulsa is something I've never seen before. People always want to help. People always want to give back, and they're always looking for the greater good. So that was really cool and inspiring. I always kind of coin this phrase as that Tulsa loves Tulsa like Texas loves Texas, and everybody knows how much Texas loves Texas, but there really is this cool energy and pride for Tulsa, and they want to see Tulsa to continue to grow, and we're kind of fighting or punching above our weight, and it's really exciting to be a part of that and moving that forward.
Yeah, it's fun to be a part of a scrappy kind of mentality. Like, you're always kind of, as it goes as size, right? Geographically, Oklahoma City is bigger, but I think Tulsa's downtown footprint is bigger than Oklahoma City's downtown. That's just, it looks like it. I think you have more bigger buildings than we do. Which, I mean, and I think you didn't knock down all the historic buildings like Oklahoma City knocked down all its historic buildings. I digress. But the good thing is, like when you came here and you meet the people and there's just a need and a want to do better, give back, be involved, and collectively grow as a unity, right? As a unit, I guess. And I've been to a few events up here, and you're right. Like, there is so many events that's giving back to this or something, and I know, even just kind of doing a little bit of research, like you guys and the team at BOK and the convention center, you guys are in the community a lot too, so that's great for you guys to be a part of that, not just to host the events but actually get out into the community, which we can touch on a little bit later. But so when you get that job, then you tell your husband, hey, we're going to Tulsa now, like, pack your bags.
Yes, that's pretty much what it was. I promised the kids that if they moved quietly and didn't put up a fuss, I'd build them a swimming pool in the backyard, which I held up my end of the bargain. But when we moved here, they were just 5 and 6 years old. So it's that's an adjustment for anybody at any age. But it's kids growing up with all the emotions and leaving a home that they've always known. It was a bit of a challenge, but the community has been just as welcoming to them as it has to myself and my husband. They have found some really great friendships. They've been involved in their sports teams, which those sports teams are now our family, which when you're moving to a different city where you don't know anybody, you're moving away from family and friends and all that, you try to just open yourself up to new ideas and new opportunities, and that includes meeting new people. Yeah. So my husband is actually very mumuch an introvert, so I was a little bit worried about him more than anybody, but I have to tell you, the people in Oklahoma, they really, really want to pull those introverts out, and they want to get to know you, and they want to know your story, and that made it that transition a lot easier.
Yeah. So to the point then of the event management side, kind of what kind of makes you tick about the event side of things? Like, because for me, hosting an event gives me anxiety. Like, I think, I'm probably going to host a golf tournament, and that is about, it's in my wheelhouse. But the thought of like the anxiety of getting people together and having a deadline freaks me out. But for you, it seems like you thrive in it. So why is it that you love the event side of things?
Don't worry, I do have anxiety about other things. So I don't know many people that are anxiety free, but I love the organization of it. I love being able to make any vision happen. The convention center is 4 walls, but we build up everything in those spaces. The BOK Center is a little bit different because they have fixed seating, and we have the arena bowl and all that kind of stuff. But at the convention center, we have 275,000 square feet of space that can be divisible into many different configurations. So being able to use that creative eye and that creative vision is really important and really exciting. I also love to be a part of those memories, and we get to help create those memories, but we also just kind of like fade into the background, and nobody really knows we're there. And so it's kind of like Santa Claus on Christmas, right? Yeah. You wake up Christmas morning and there's presents under the tree. But Santa, he gets to create that very exciting experience for everyone. And part of it, honestly, is a lot of it is a selfless act, right? You want to be able to provide for somebody and take care of them and invite them into your home. And I get to do that for a living, and I get to make those memories and those moments happen every day. And that's I can't see myself doing anything else. Yeah,
that's cool to be in that position, right? To just kind of have that, like you said, that Santa mentality of like, we're hosting you guys, but you have no idea that we're just in the shadows a little bit, but we get to see all the exciting things that happen.
Right.
And there's nothing better than seeing the smiling faces, because all of the events that you put on, for some people, they don't come to all of them, right? You're in the room for all of them, whereas these people, it's like, this is their thing. This is their one big event every year, and that excitement to come up here, where, and they might be coming from all over the state to come to Tulsa to have this big convention or this dinner or this gala or whatever it is. Like, it's exciting.
Yeah, when I start to explain to people what I do for a living, kind of a lot of the reaction I get the first time is, "Oh, well, you plan weddings for a living?" I'm like, well, yes. I mean, I've hosted weddings before, but let me tell you about all of the other fun, exciting things. Right. We get to host, sports tournaments, and we get to host nonprofit galas, and we get to host meetings and conventions, and there's some venues out there that have even done funerals. So like, you can think of all kinds of events that happen in your life, and we could probably make them work in the convention center.
Yeah,
it's really cool. And even for the BOK Center, when you have somebody walk into their first concert and that first experience, there's no other feeling like it. I actually have a friend that was a mom on my son's baseball team here in Oklahoma who had never been to a concert before in her life, and she's, late 30s, early 40s. And she is a big, giant fan of Mark Anthony. Well, when Mark Anthony was here in Tulsa, I was able to get her some tickets, and I didn't realize it was her first concert until afterwards. She said, "Did you know that was my first concert?" And I was like, "Oh, that's so cool." And I was like, "What did you think?" She was like, I don't even know how to describe how cool it was to see somebody live in person and hear their sound and hear their music that I've only been seen on TV or heard on the radio." She's like, you can't describe it. It's just a really cool experience.
Yeah. You mentioned kind of like the tourism travel side of things as well, not just the community, but the fact that you guys, you can host conventions here and bring a lot of eyeballs in, and you kind of provide the floor for businesses to market themselves, right? When you think of a convention center and you think of trade shows, you have all these businesses coming in and using this space as a way to generate business for themselves. So that's kind of really cool to see those little companies, for the most part, who do trade shows, to give them that opportunity.
Yeah, I think it's great. Even some of the vendors that we use, we love to keep things local and give kind of be a part of that entrepreneurial spirit that Tulsa has, and make sure that we are utilizing those resources and promoting them as much as we can. And to see somebody, I'm going to use the consumer show example. If you have somebody, let's say it's like a home and garden show, and you have somebody that's like a roofing company, and they're just trying to make it, but they're making those connections because those people walk through the door and they're having such a great experience. Happy people love to spend money. So if they're having a good experience because of the services that my team provided them, that in turn can help that roofing vendor that's just trying to start out and make a living and build a business, and they make their big break because they attended a show at the convention center. I think I love being a part of that.
Yeah. Well, and to the other side of things too, right? It's the corporate meetings that you could, you have a big corporation that needs a space to hold, a meeting, and that's a massive, everyone seems to have their ones in Vegas, right? If they're a massive company, but I'd much rather drive to Tulsa than fly to Vegas for a convention, because I've been to Vegas for a meeting and business conventions, and you don't get to see Vegas and enjoy it. You get to go to a meeting for 8 hours and then go to your hotel and go to bed.
There's a lot of distractions in Vegas.
There's a lot of distractions.
So are the meeting planners and the people providing the content, are they really able to get the message across that they're trying to?
Right.
Because if half of your attendance is doing one of the other million things to do in Vegas, was it truly a successful meeting? But yeah, we actually work with two companies here in Tulsa, very large companies in Tulsa that do direct sale marketing, where it's Senegence and Usborne. They are based here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They have been courted, if you will, to take their events elsewhere, but they believe in Tulsa, and they believe in the staff at the convention center and the arena to help them be successful. And so they fly people in from all over the country, sometimes even all over the world, people from Mexico and Australia and things like that, to come to Tulsa, Oklahoma to be educated on how they can grow their own business and be better entrepreneurs on their end. Yeah. But I do have a theory about second and third tier markets. I do think that they are going to make a big boom in the meeting and convention world pretty soon, because everything's costing more these days. In some of these bigger cities, I think eventually they're going to get too expensive for this, and so people are going to have to try to go to those second and third tier cities to still have the event and still be successful, but also keeping cost and stuff.
You guys be prepped and ready.
Yeah, I'm ready to go. I've made that prediction about 2 years ago, and I'm waiting to see if it pans out.
Yeah. Everyone's moving away from Zoom and actually meeting in person now,
right?
Which is great. But the other thing that I think people don't really think of when they think of a convention center, but it's super important, security and safety, right? When you come here, you think, oh, great, I'm going to convention. The last thing I think of is security and safety. But obviously for you guys, it's probably number one priority, right?
Well, as an attendee, I hope that that's kind of the last thing that you think about because of everybody else doing their job correctly. Security is definitely everybody's responsibility. Everybody has the see something, say something. But do they really? So that is part of the event planning process. And what is your security plan? Here's our security plan. And we take that very, very seriously. We are making sure that our staff is trained, because, to be honest with you, if something were going to happen in a venue, it's going to be our frontline staff that's going to be the first ones to respond. So we make sure that our staff is taken care of and well prepared, and we just kind of constantly do that training, right, over and over again. One of the programs that I went through was the Academy for Venue Safety and Security that's put on through the International Association of Venue Managers. And one of the most impactful stories that they tell was the gentleman that was head of security for the World Trade Center towers. And he constantly, at least once a week, was having full building evacuations to the point where the staff that worked in those buildings were so annoyed with him, but he needed to create that muscle memory. It's kind of like when the fire alarm goes off, you automatically stand up and you leave. But if all of those other threats are there, you have to have that same muscle memory. So, on 9/11, majority of the staff said we just thought it was another one of his drills, and that he's credited for saving thousands of lives because he took security so seriously, and he built it into the culture of the people that worked in the World Trade Center.
That's really cool. To the event side of things, then, I know recently you guys potentially had the largest event in state history, right?
We we did.
Is it unofficial? Is it unofficial? Is it official?
The MC of the event said it from the stage, and all of my records for the convention center also confirm it. But we hosted St. Francis Healthcare System had their all-employee banquet on Saturday, and we served 5,030 people, and it is the largest banquet that's ever been served in the state of Oklahoma. And the ASM Global team knocked it out of the park. They did so good. I could not have asked for a better execution. Everybody arrived safely. Everybody left safely. Everybody got fed. Everybody was well taken care of. The guests were happy. The client was happy. The staff was happy at the end of the night. Yeah. Those types of events help remind me why I do what I do.
Right.
And it was really great to see everybody. I mean, we even had staff dancing in the aisles as the guests were leaving as kind of like, have a good night. And I got them on video and I showed them, and they're like, oh my God, we were having so much fun. I was like, I know, and that's what we do. We get to have fun for a living.
Right. Yeah, it's like when you go to your favorite restaurant and the servers and everyone's so nice and so happy and just glad to be at work, and it rubs off, right?
Yeah.
But you've just times that by like 1,000.
Exactly.
Right? Like to have those people here.
Yeah. And just watching, like, as the guests were leaving and our staff, it was our operations staff, they were making their way into the room to start clearing the room, and they were just engaging with the attendees, and the attendees were dancing with them, and I just stood there in awe for probably a good 5 minutes just watching it happen, and it made my day.
That's awesome. Brian, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah,
Thank you for coming in. Excited to dive in and hear your side of the story, and also hear about kind of like obviously Angie runs kind of the convention side of things, involved in that, and you're more involved with the BOK and the bowl and the events and the music and the basketball and all the cool stuff that happens.
Well, I think everybody's involved in cool stuff. I mean, you just heard Angie talk about serving 5,000 people over the weekend, which is no easy feat, but the team always makes it look easier than it really is. So my role here with ASM Global Tulsa, I oversee the full team, so including the BOK Center as well as the Cox Business Convention Center. And really, we have such an amazing group of staff here that day in and day out, I probably have the easiest job in the building of everybody. So I consider myself, I'm like the resource provider, or I'm the snow plowing sometimes. And my job is to make sure they have what they need and clear obstacles out of their way, whatever that may be, and let the team be able to focus on what they do best, their individual roles day in and day out. And we're just really fortunate. Like I said, we have some incredible professionals, and in fact, staff here from both BOK and Cox Business Convention Center are regularly recognized, not only locally, but nationally in industry trades as well. So I get to lead a group of people that I'm really proud to work with.
Yeah, no doubt.
And I would say, Brian, clearing those obstacles is a great role and resource for us because it makes our job easier as well as we're able to focus on those events. But, he said about the staff, that they're the ones that make the magic happen. I mean, we've got several staff members that have been here for 30 plus years in various capacities.
Yeah.
So these people have literally grown up in this building and in this town, and they believe in it so much that they continue to stay.
Yeah.
It speaks a lot for not only the city and the venue, but the team that we've created around them, that they want to continue to promote the venue and the experiences that they have.
Yeah.
And they're also really just big cheerleaders for Tulsa. I mean, people here are really proud of the community that they work in. These venues are not only recognized, here in the community, but throughout the state, throughout the nation. And I think people who come to work every day, and they're really proud of where they work because of, the types of things we get to make happen. I mean, I think we're in the business of making, amazing, exceptional experiences happen. And it's a place where people come to play and engage and connect, and our role is to ensure that those things go off without a hitch, and it's and most days it's a lot of fun.
We kind of talked about like every day being different, and also you're hosting, whether it's somebody coming in for their fundraiser or someone coming in for the first time they've ever seen the Eagles play, and they've brought their parent with them as a birthday gift or whatever it is. Like you're in the business of making smiles and putting smiles on people's faces and making people happy, so it's a great business to be in. But to set a little bit of context, Brian, tell us a little bit about kind of your kind of journey to Tulsa and like your upbringing, how you kind of get into the event space.
Sure. So let's see. When I was in college, my I studied engineering. My education background's in engineering. I went to Michigan State University, but while I was in school, I worked for the arena on campus, the Breslin Student Event Center, which is home to the men's and women's basketball program, and then concerts, events, and things of that nature. And I worked very closely with the director of operations at the time, and in fact, approached him, I think, about my sophomore year, and basically asked him to create a job for me that didn't exist at the arena, to let me work basically, by his side to kind of learn his role and what he was doing. And I kind of always thought that I would eventually end up on the venue side, but that I would go out on tour and stuff first. I'd be a roadie first. My thought was, with the engineering background and my practical experience of just kind of always working around entertainment, live production, theater, et cetera, that I would work with the technology side or the technical side of live events and activities. And at the time, there's a really big growth and all this automation and technical control systems. And I'd also had an opportunity to work. I had an internship in Walt Disney World with Walt Disney Entertainment on their production side for a semester. So I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. I'm gonna basically create my own degree, have an engineering background, and do all the technical stuff. But as it turned out, after I finished school, there was an opportunity to join what is the predecessor company of ours, SMG, in El Paso, Texas. So in 2004, the company was responsible for operating some facilities for the city of El Paso, and the city was going to convert a 1930 built single screen movie house into a performing arts center, a $50 million performing arts center. And so it seemed like a cool project, and I was hired to be the director of operations at that site and really focus a lot on the day-to-day with the construction, but also operate the facilities. So fast forward 18 years later, I'm still in El Paso, although when I took that job, I thought I'd be there for maybe 3 years. Really fell in love with the city, great team. Our account and our responsibility continued to grow year over year. We have a very unique organization there. In addition to running the buildings, we also do all the destination marketing, so meeting, convention, film, sport, and tourism development. And then the last 2 years I was there, we also operated aquatic facilities on behalf of the city. So really good, really strong partnership with the city of El Paso. I was asked a little over a year ago to consider joining the team here in Tulsa. And anybody that works in our company or in our industry knows that the Tulsa account, the BOK Center, Cox Business Convention Center are among probably some of our premier facilities that we manage. Of the 350-some facilities worldwide, the Tulsa account is one of the favorite accounts. It really has great people, very successful, a lot of national coverage for the great things they do here. They've created the standard around a lot of different things that a lot of other venues replicate. Things that they try out here have become the way that everyone should do different things, and certainly in terms around welcoming and marketing, engaging with our community. So I was offered this opportunity, came out here to visit the community, really loved Tulsa, and joined the team. And I'm just on my 1 year anniversary here in the last week or two for being here in Tulsa. So it's been a lot of fun, and I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, Michigan to El Paso is a bit of a difference, right?
Yeah.
Obviously by way of Florida for a little bit, but tell me about the Disney thing, because that is that's a religion down there, right? Yeah,
it's probably one of the coolest jobs I ever had, because I got to do all the most unique sort of behind the scenes things that you can imagine. I don't think that they actually fly a real human Tinkerbell anymore, but they used to for a long time, since the park opened in the 70s, I think, up until in the last 10 years or so. So that was one of my jobs, was to take a human to the top of the spire, the spire and the Magic Kingdom, and then sail them out over the crowd of people in the middle of the night.
Right?
Yeah, maybe it is.
It's you ever seen Pink in concert?
Correct. It's just like that. Right? And then some days you were on the launch team, so you were the one that sent her out, or you were on the catch team, which you received her on the roof of Tomorrowland, or I had a state of Florida pyrotechnician's license. We did all of the night fireworks and made the stuff in. At the time, it was just after the Millennium celebration, so all of the stuff in Epcot and the Illuminations, which was running for almost 20 years, but they retired that show and put something else out there. It's just a really, really cool job, and a lot of I was the youngest in the group. All of my peers were in graduate study for lighting design, costume design, sound design, and I was a sophomore in college, and they let me join the program just because I had so much other prior practical background on the theatrical side from work that I had done in high school, and I worked a job all summers, all through high school and college too. That was all around like entertainment and event management. So they let this 18-year-old in this group of like 22 and 23-year-olds, which was what was funny about it is because they'd all go out right when they weren't working, and I couldn't go out with them because I can't get into anywhere. So whenever I wasn't at work, I would just go back into the park because basically you had like an all-access, 24/7 access to the coolest place on earth. So even when I wasn't at work, if I was awake, I was in the park somewhere. And so even when I wasn't, I'd ask other departments to let me just shadow them or do whatever. So I got to do all kinds of really cool stuff, and it was certainly one of the coolest things I got to do. But definitely solidified for me that I knew I wanted to be around live entertainment and events. I still think one of my favorite things to do is to be able to see people as they're coming into the venue, taking tickets or whatever, to be able to feel that energy that they have. They're so excited to be able to, come into the event, whatever that is. That's an awards banquet or it's a concert or whatever's taking place. There's been a lot of, leading up to, the date that's happening, and even at the Disney World side, one of the things they make you do, you have to, at least once, you have to go, what they do is called rope drop, which is you have to go before park opens. And like there's people who really are excited to be there. If you've ever done it, you're basically the very first people to step foot in the park in that day, and they drop a rope and people go running into the park. So every new cast member has to experience that at least once. It's the same kind of thing, right? It's that energy. People are so excited to be there, and so that's when I knew that I was going to figure out how to still be a part of this industry, entertainment, and making experiences happen is what I wanted to be able to do. So.
Yeah.
I feel like the closest I want to get to the backstage Disney experience is reading a book about it, because I still want to believe in the magic.
Yeah, you don't want to hear all the tricks.
No,
and
I
everything.
don't. It's kind of like when I worked in radio for a small bit. I realized that a lot of radio is not live, and for whatever reason, in my head, all radio was live all the time. But when I learned that working in radio, I was a little bit of me was crushed. Lost a little bit of my innocence there. But one of my favorite things, the stories that Brian tells me, is his favorite job to do in a venue is to answer the phone.
Yeah, I do love answering the phone. That's not
Really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because I feel like you really have to be on your toes. You never know what you're going to get. Like, you can answer a question or route a call or know what's going on. Like, I love answering the phone. So I don't get to do it very often, but like being the switchboard operator or taking questions, I can connect it back to a Disney experience as well. So like whenever you're in the park and you obviously have your identification name tag on, if you're anywhere in the public area, people will ask you questions all the time. And so a lot of the people that work on the behind the scenes, the technical stuff, they avoid setting foot on the public side because they don't want to answer those questions. And I would intentionally go out, and even like I said, I'd go when I wasn't even at work. I would be out there and I would just start answering questions because I thought it was so much fun to engage with everybody. So the peers that I worked with would always give me a hard time because I'd be like out answering questions and they were trying to avoid the public as much as possible. But answering the phone, taking tickets, seeing the excitement around people having the experience. It helps, I think that, sometimes there's days that are challenging, and so you remember what it is you do it for. So to go out and, see a family come into the building and really be excited about an experience, or as they're leaving, talking about that experience, or now you post things online and social media and they're talking about their experience. They don't necessarily know your role, but you had a little role in helping making sure that happens, and that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, recently I was in Austin to see Harry Styles for my wife's 30th birthday, and we saw him on the first night of his 6-night stay. And there were people, as we were walking into the Moody Center in Austin, there was people camping outside for tomorrow's show. And it's the first time.
Was it a GA floor?
Yeah, there's GA.
GA floor shows,
That's why.
Yeah, and I was like, we went up, we were like, why, the doors are open, guys. Like, why are you still sitting down?
Yeah,
No, we're here for tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it's the first time I've ever seen that. I'm wondering if you've ever had that experience at the BOK. You've had people camping out to get in here.
Yes, over there across Frisco.
Yeah.
We've had.
Who was that act? Do you remember?
Gosh, yeah, I knew you were going to ask me that question.
Sorry.
I'm going to say it's an alternative band. We gave out burritos from Cuba.
Oh, no, you're talking about
Bandito burritos.
Yeah, because I know the story. I would say it predates me, but I'll get it before this is over. Yeah.
Like, can we edit that in to make it sound like I totally knew the answer right off the top of my head?
The
story goes is like these people were waiting out for a GA floor, and then our marketing team here went and bought basically these burritos that I guess are a favorite of the band, and then delivered it to all the people that were waiting out in line because they've been out there for quite some time. Mm-hmm. And we credited it to the artist. So
Right.
the artist bought these for you and put this out. So basically something we did on their behalf. For their fans or for their guests. And like people, it was something that got a lot of feedback on social media. I'm trying to remember who the artist is because I know that I've been told the story. But people, used to people would lined up to buy concert tickets. That was a thing,
or merch or whatever it is.
Yeah, merch or like an on sale. When you had to physically go to a place to buy a ticket, right? And like so there'd be people lined up in advance. So that part of our world is gone because of the online ticketing and how all that stuff works. But so now it's to be able to get these really coveted spots in a unassigned, general admission floor, festival style floor. People want to be first or as close as possible, and they're willing to give up so much of their time to do it. Things we always sort of try to make sure, that they're secure and safe when they're doing that. Sometimes it's hot out, make sure they have water, those kinds of things. Sometimes you need to set up restrooms, access for them if they're going to be there for a while. It depends on the show. It depends on the audience. Usually, your younger audiences are the ones that are more willing to do that.
Yeah.
We don't have people lining up usually for days for some of the more legacy acts, but you got to be prepared for them.
Yeah, I was shocked.
Part of that magic, right? That I was talking
yeah.
about. I mean, the fact that if I was a big giant fan of the band, pausing for you to be able to insert the name of the band here, but if I really thought that the band member bought me that burrito, I'm going to lose my mind. It reminds me, one of my first concerts I ever went to was New Kids on the Block. So you can do the math to figure out how old I am. But I remember my grandma created a different experience for me because she left a locket on the front door that had the little New Kids on the Block logo on it, and she said, "Oh my God, a limo just dropped this off and left. And by the way, we're going to the concert tonight." And so my cousin and I were like, they know where we live. This is amazing. This is amazing. Danny, Donnie, Joe, and Jordan. We are ready to go, and they know we're here. And it was. I didn't find out till years later that it was Grandma.
I love that Santa Claus moment. That's great.
Right? Yeah.
That's what we talked about earlier. The Santa Claus moment.
I totally referenced Santa Claus.
I wasn't even in the room for that.
They weren't even in the room for that. But we get to be a part of those moments, and that we have the coolest job in the entire world.
On a personal level, then, has there been people that either two-part question, who for a personal goal would you like to have, and that's on the BOK side and also on the convention side, so there's two different things to that, but also who have you had in that you were I was so pumped to see these people or host these people already?
Oh wow, that's a really good question. I don't know who I want because the possibilities are endless, so I don't.
I'm ready with my answer.
I don't know. Okay, well, I have to stumble through mine. I think probably most recently the coolest event was actually just 2 days ago. It was yesterday. It was the New View Luncheon that helps support services for a blindness awareness, and the keynote speaker was just so inspirational. He was a gentleman who lost his sight in college in 2001, and his story was all about how he lost hope, and his hope is his journey towards love, and so he felt like he was losing love. And while he's talking to us, he's painting on this canvas because he's one of the top blind artists in the world. And when you're looking at the painting, and he's using whites and grays, and he's talking about the grays are the darkness in his days, and whites are kind of the light and hope that he was hoping to gain back. And he said part of regaining his hope was changing his perspective, and he flips the painting upside down, and it's not anything like he thought it was going to be. When he was originally painting it looks like maybe it's a map or a continent or something like that. And he flips it around, and it's the profile of an African American woman with very textured hair, and everybody in the audience is like, "Whoa!" Right? And it's really cool. And then he starts adding about talking about the color in his life, his wife and his son, and his support dog Eagle. And so he starts adding colors, bright, vibrant colors into the woman's hair. And just, I get to hear those speakers like that all the time. A lot of conferences and nonprofit galas and all that. They usually have a keynote speaker or something that's going to inspire people or whatever it is. And I get to hear those on a pretty regular basis. So, some of the things that we do can be a little daunting and a little scary and a little overwhelming, but I get those constant reminders all the time that there is hope and there is love out there. And yesterday was a really good reminder of that. Really good. It was very timely. After being exhausted from the weekend, it was a very timely session. So, I don't think I can pinpoint one person, but because there's so many great speakers and inspirational people out there. So I think just my more general answer is inspirational speakers. Yeah.
So I got the answer for the burritos. It's 21 Pilots.
21 Pilots.
Okay, yeah.
That's the artist.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen them. They're great. Not here, but I saw them. They were a lot better than I expected. I didn't plan to see them. They were on before an act I wanted to see. So I was there early at a festival. But Brian, what about you? What about your favorites that you've had?
Favorites that I've had, I'm going to use the last year because that's my tenure here at BOK is the last year. So I would say most excited leading up to and then really enjoyed the show was Dua Lipa.
Yeah. That was a great show.
Really excited to see it.
That was a really great show.
I was a big fan of Dua Lipa, especially during the pandemic, because she was one of the people that dropped new music, and that album was amazing. So, probably kept a lot of people going. Very exciting.
Well, and the stage layout's pretty epic too,
super
right?
Cool.
Like she's in the middle.
Yeah, super cool.
Yeah.
And we were fortunate. We had Megan Thee Stallion on as the opener on the stage. She was on all the dates. So
I think my wife came to that concert with a friend. Yeah, I'm pretty sure she did.
I also brought my daughter to that concert, not really fully knowing all of the things that she was going to learn.
I saw your daughter at the event. She knew all the words.
Yeah.
To that, so
which led to awkward conversations after.
I don't think you were exposing her for the first time. So
best mom in the world.
Yeah.
It sounds like she knows how to use the internet.
She's a well-rounded child.
Yeah. Cultured.
Yeah. I actually had my mom flying for that show.
See?
She really wanted to see both artists. So if you can believe it or not. So I had my mom here as well, which was cool.
Yeah.
The second part of the question was who do I really want to?
Yeah. Well, what's like a personal goal for you?
She has been here before, but not during my tenure, and I've seen her before, but I would love to host her here again at the BOK Center, and that is Dolly Parton. So.
Oh wow!
Oh my God, I would love that too.
She was here in 2016.
She would shut this place down.
Yeah. I've seen her twice, both times in Chicago.
Well, I mean, does Dolly know about how philanthropic Tulsa is? Because Dolly herself is very philanthropic.
She is very philanthropic. In fact, when the vaccines with the pandemic and everything, she gave money to Vanderbilt University in Nashville, and to the Moderna vaccine, I call it the Dolly Parton vaccine because she helped fund that science. So I got that one first.
So Dolly,
that's really cool.
If you're listening, Dolly.
If you're listening, you're welcome on the podcast anytime to talk about anytime.
Absolutely. If she's come to the building here to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, we'll do that.
We'll make that happen.
Right at this table. I came to Ed Sheeran when Ed Sheeran was here, and we were supposed to come and see Lewis Capaldi when he was going to be opening for Niall Horan, but we were coming to see Lewis because he's hilarious. But COVID kind of ruined that one. So bummed that.
COVID caught a few things.
Yeah.
Kind of bothered me a little bit.
Put a little dent in the industry.
A little bit. Yeah. But the cool thing is, like you just mentioned, like you get to put smiles on people's faces, you get to host people, and like you have a constant reminder that if you're having a bad day, all you got to do is go outside and watch people running in here, and super pumped to be here. Are there any moments though when it's like the quiet before the storm, where like it's either on the convention side or on the entertainment side, where you just get 5 minutes to yourself and everything's red? It's like that fine moment between like everything's set, right?
But before,
no one's coming in yet. Like just to be on the floor, on stage, whatever it is. Like, are there any moments that you've just had that are, and it doesn't have to be here. I mean, you've been in the industry for a long time. Just special moments that you're like, this is why I love what I do.
Probably one of my favorite memories. I was an event manager for like a week. So brand new, still trying to figure out what a convention center was. And I was, we have event reports and we have diagrams. So we take the event managers take all the content that the client needs to be successful for the event, and then we write it out into a form that the staff is going to understand and be able to interpret to make the event happen. But everything's on paper. And I was reviewing the event report for an upcoming event, and I was like, okay, that all makes sense. That the words here match the picture here. And then I got up and I went into the room, and it was like the event just rose up from the floor. And it was so cool to see something that was just on paper come to life and be right in front of me. And I leaned over to the event manager that was working the event. I go, this is so cool, with like this big giant grin on my face. Like, this is like I've seen my idol for the very first time. And he kind of looked up at me and he was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, that just like hours ago, this was just a piece of paper. And now there's like tables and chairs and stage and lighting and projection and food and the clinking of silverware and all this kind of stuff. And he was like, yeah, this is what we do for a living. And I'm like, but that's cool, right? And like it was just, I think
totally
for a second,
off.
like
Yeah.
he just that coolness wore off.
Yeah.
And so every time I'm working with a staff or a team member that maybe has lost a little bit of that spark and that inspiration, I tell that story all the time because it really does remind you that we get to create from the floor up. And I still hold on to that story almost 18 years later.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't present for that, but I can imagine exactly this you in that moment because knowing you and your energy and how you are, I can totally see you. I can see this. I don't know who the staff person is, but I can totally see the reaction.
His name is Jason Givens, and he's still at the St. Charles Convention Center, and I still tell him that I've used that story all the time. And guess what? He doesn't remember that moment.
Right.
So that crushes me a little bit. I'm like, come on, that was one of my defining moments in my career, and you don't even remember it.
Yeah. Brian, is there anything you do so special between before an event?
I can tell you that here, even in the last year, there are definitely as we're. The final things are being done. Sound check has been completed in the arena. We're just set up. Food's ready. Like the pieces are coming together. The staff has been in. They briefed their position. People are lining up outside the building, and like you're kind of getting ready for that clearance from the tour that they're ready to go. Our staff's ready to go, and someone makes that all call. Doors are open, and the doors open, and then you go from that where the building has almost no hum because everything's set and everyone's standing and ready to like. The escalation of everything's running and everything's happening and people are running into the building. They're in a rush to get to merch lines. They're in a rush to get down to the GA floor. Whatever that they were excited about for that day. So that does happen here. Almost probably pretty much for every event there is that window of time. I think more on that from a career perspective. One of the things I think was really exciting in El Paso when we opened the new Performing Arts Center, and this was years later. The market didn't really do any of the major national equity Broadway tours. That we would do some of the smaller stuff, and we were trying to really grow the market and be able to show we could support some of these big tours. And so obviously, then at the time, this would be 2012. At the time, one of the the biggest touring things was Wicked, and getting it to come into a market, like an untested market like El Paso, where it hadn't been, was a big deal, and there was a lot that went into that. And we spent a lot of time working with the production team and our agent, trying to really convince them that El Paso could support and sell these tickets and sell 2 weeks, which is 16 shows of Wicked, and that when it was all loaded, the process of it loading in and all just like that it finally opened and people came in was a very exciting moment. Like this was going to be in market and it was going to be hugely successful and all these shows were sold out and like no one was sure, hey, can this market really support that? And we had to take that bet. We obviously were very confident that we could, and we did, and it was great. It changed everything because then national tours came every year thereafter because the market was successful.
It's very similar to the BOK Center story.
Yeah,
right?
If you build it, they will come.
If you build it, they will come.
Yeah, this is,
fantastic
looking building, right?
What it's done for the for this community and the surrounding area, it's one of the catalysts to downtown redevelopment and growth, and not only the effect here in Tulsa, but in the region, northeastern Oklahoma and northwestern even Arkansas even. So.
Yeah, it's the great part about like the impact that you have is that you're bringing in travel dollars, right? And those local businesses, those local hotels, the restaurants, the merch places, whatever it is, like they are all benefiting from an act that you guys have signed.
Yeah.
Right. Like, some of the big ones that are coming up. I mean, Carrie Underwood's coming here on Halloween, right? Like that is, as far as Oklahoma country goes, like she is up there.
Blake Shelton, Garth Brooks.
Yeah. Like
if you don't know them.
Yeah.
And you haven't spent any time in Oklahoma.
Right. Like that, this place is going to be, amazing that entire weekend.
We have, and a couple days before we have Post Malone. So, and that show is sold out. So, it's going to be.
I've heard he's so good in concert too.
I'm very excited to see that as well.
Yeah. On a selfish side, what are the perks that you get? Like, obviously, I assume you get tickets, but are you? It depends on the act, I guess, right? Some of the acts are like giving out tickets, and some of them are like,
Well, I mean, so I guess, we try to, when possible, be able to do something with staff. Sometimes we have
Sure.
tickets. Sometimes, probably one of the perks that staff do enjoy is they're able to buy tickets, sometimes slightly ahead of like where the on sale is, so that they'll at least be able to get tickets. Something, especially something that's in really high demand, they'll at least be able to get access to something.
Like Post Malone, sold out.
Yeah, Post Malone sold out. They're able to do that. They're able to make requests for themselves or friends or family and things like that, which is a great perk of working here. I mean, obviously, for me, I'm usually at most events in the building, so you're here, you get to see the whole thing come together. Sometimes we meet the artists. We usually welcome them, present them with a gift from the building and the community. And pre-COVID, it was pretty often to meet to do that, meet regularly. Since the pandemic, it's a little more hit and miss, but we still enjoy doing it, and so that's probably pretty fun. I'd say other perks of being here.
I have one.
Yeah.
Our Chef Devin.
Oh yeah. That's a good.
He's incredible.
Yeah.
Like,
the food I had when I was here for the Oklahoma Hall of Fame induction last year was I was surprised of how, when you come to a convention, you're just like, it's
rubber
going to be
chicken with the gelatinous sauce. You're like, what is it?
And I had
Why
this
is
piece
it
of
even
steak,
that
and I was
color?
like, oh.
Yeah. So that was Chef Devin.
So I get to eat really, really good food on a fairly regular basis.
Probably more often than we should. Yeah. That is the
really
other big
cool.
perk. So
But calories don't count when you eat at
Of course
work.
not, yeah.
Yeah, the
And
event
if the food's free,
access
it doesn't count either.
And the event access and the food. I mean, we even in addition to the banquets and things that are going on at the convention center, obviously we've got awesome concession food here as well. But then we have a couple of premium areas, including like our One Oak Club, where we have a buffet that's done for the events for our premium clients can go in and choose to purchase that. And one of the things, I'm able to come in and enjoy that, grab dinner before the show, because there's not really time for us to go anywhere or do anything in the building. So it's definitely a nice thing to be able to do. And it's the best food around. I mean, Chef Devin's incredible.
It's so good.
And don't you guys there's a lot of stuff, you guys give back some of the food, right? What is it do you guys do with I saw something in the website. You guys donate a lot of. Was it the John 3:16 mission?
John 3:16 and Iron Gate. We do. Obviously, if food has gone out and been around the public, we don't donate that food. But any food that has been prepared and kept in the kitchen that maybe wasn't consumed or anything like that, we do make a very good effort to put it into the community.
That's really cool.
Chef Devin does a lot with Iron Gate, and we also do a lot with John 3:16.
Yeah.
So we have relationships with these organizations to do as much as possible. We don't want things to go to waste, but that's also, they're our neighbors, right? Iron Gate, in fact, is right behind the building. So, we want to take care of our community, and we have a whole profile around that. It's called ASM Acts. This is how we engage and give back in our community, and we're focused around community, people, and the environment. And so we look at ways that we can, better the community that we serve. Earlier this year, we hired a community relations manager, and so we have someone. So while we're all trying to be participating in how we give back to the community, it's helpful to have a dedicated resource to really focus on that. So we started that earlier this year and hired a full-time community relations manager, and she helps us do that. So the food program and the number of things that the chef does, not only in terms of being able to use some of the food product, but he also gives his time, a tremendous amount of his time. In fact, just last week, he was a featured chef at a fundraiser, also for Iron Gate, and it was a little bit of a competitive. They have probably 8 to 10 different chefs there. They all make a smaller, bite-sized entree thing that you get to kind of sample. There was toasted wine and stuff like that, and then they vote and choose the best of. And Chef Devin's was definitely among the best there.
He's a little biased.
That's awesome.
But having the community relations role, it was super important because she is able to find some of those other things that maybe aren't as obvious ways to give back to the community. Something as simple as collecting the plastic grocery bags. Iron Gate, they do a great job of helping feed the community, but they need bags to put the food in to hand out to the community. So we've done a couple of those drives there. We also have done, during our client party that we host in December last year, we collected undergarments because the Tulsas Day Center put basically a call out to the community saying, hey, these are the items that we are in need of that are constantly being given out, and we're running low on supply, and one of them was undergarments. You don't think, that's not necessarily at the top of your mind. So a part of doing a client appreciation event, we asked our clients and our community to give back as well. And so I called it Help Us Fill Up Under the Tree. Nobody really got it, so this is probably why I don't work in marketing. But we were able to donate, I think it was like 450 pairs of undergarments to the Tulsa Day Center just by, so some of that stuff that maybe isn't as obvious way to give back to the community, and it's not always, writing a check for whatever resources. It's having Yvonne able to create those opportunities for us and make those connections has been really great.
Yeah. Brian, I want to go back to what you said earlier, just to finish up, about giving the artist a gift when they come here. What's that gift? Like, is it personalized to them, or do you work with the local?
And this is probably one of the
because these guys get gifts all the time, right?
And a lot of times the gifts, it's very common. Especially if you go into like a professional sports building, you get like the jersey of whatever that team is with your name on the back and stuff like that. And I'm sure that's cool. But the Tulsa marketing team here, I don't know how they do it. Like, they spend so much time researching and understanding the intricacies of these artists and their backstory and their families, and they come up with the most unique and most creative gifts. And to be present when they are given these is really incredible, because they are genuinely impressed and touched at the amount of work and insight that we have and thoughtfulness into these gifts. We just had Michael Bublé here, and the staff got a hold of a recording. I think it's from an online posting. I think it's like from like a YouTube posting or something. It's him and his son are performing a song together, and they were able to take that audio track, have that put on a wax record, then had an artist hand paint like both the On Wax Center label as well as the the paper casing that the record goes in. It's a really cool thing, and then gifted to him, and he just thought that was incredible. I think one of my other really favorite ones, we had MGK here, and we got him these shoes that then were custom painted by an artist. They were super cool. Had all the really detailed different lyrics of his songs are on this shoe. It almost kind of looks like graffiti, but it was really well done. And we presented him these shoes. He was so excited that he chose to wear the shoes in the show that night, which that really never happens. And even if we give them something they could a wearable, our expectation is not that they're gonna. Yeah. This stuff's already pre-planned. All these people, so many designers and things decide all this stuff, the look, the color, everything, right? She's not gonna change it. He was so excited. He's like, I'm gonna wear these with the show. He did, and of course, if you know the show, he comes in on a helicopter. So he's hanging over the audience, floating in. He's wearing the shoes. But the coolest thing, obviously wore them here, but the coolest thing was all the other cities that he went to afterwards, he's wearing those shoes. So there's videos of him making his entry into LA, other markets, and so that's a really big. We were super excited about that, because it's hey, he's wearing the thing that he got in Tulsa, Oklahoma, in LA or whatever, and all the other markets he was in. So very, very cool. But they are how they come up with this stuff and never ceases to amaze me. It is really cool.
It goes back to what I was saying in the beginning, is that we get to be so creative in this industry, and it's definitely one of the things I love about it, and we try to engage local as much as we can. For over the convention center back in June, we actually hosted 5 events in the same day, and one of them was the World Breaking Classic. So who would have thought that there's a breakdancing community in Tulsa, Oklahoma? But there is, and we beat out New York City to host that event here. And so we actually commissioned a local artist called Clean Hands Army to paint this mural in a graffiti style art, and that was the backdrop of the entire World Breaking Classic. It's on all of the B-Boy videos and all of the marketing material and all of the recap. And so we were able to show not only the breakdancing talent in Tulsa, but also the artistic and creative talent that we have here as well.
So awesome. I just had a blast listening to you guys talk for an hour. this place is so diverse, right? The events you have is just all the way across the spectrum, to hosting events, to charity events, to the basketball coming here. I mean, OU Arkansas, I think, are on the schedule to play here.
Coming up.
You got Post Malone, Carrie Underwood, like all of this stuff, breakdancing.
The Oklahoma Hall of Fame.
The Oklahoma Hall of Fame is coming in November.
Coming back.
Shout out.
You were here for it last year,
I'll be back again, and I'll hit you guys up when I come back.
Yeah, please do.
I'll be here all day. But yeah, I genuinely can feel the passion from you guys. Like, it's not just a job for you guys. You just come to work. You love what you do. You have a great team around you. And I don't think now they do if they listen to this podcast, but up until this point, probably the city isn't as aware as they are now if they listen to this podcast, how much you love what you do and how much you appreciate the city as well, right? Because they welcomed you in. You're like me. You're not from here. We're in Oklahoma. We're Oklahoma transplants. So I want to thank you guys for taking an hour of your time to share this story, but also thank you for the work that you do, and I hope that you never leave.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. That means a lot.
This is a lot of fun.
Never leave either.
Yeah.
I mean, you can move to Tulsa.
I can move to Tulsa, yeah. So where are people reaching, people listening, they think something has sparked them. They might want to get into the industry. They might want to help out with an event, whatever it is. How do they reach you guys?
Absolutely. Check out our website. So bokcenter.com. We have a contact, as we also have ways so you can see the different roles that we have in the organization. We're always looking for incredible talent to join our team. And then Cox Business Convention Center.
CoxCenterTulsa.com. That's also our handle. At Cox Center Tulsa is our handle on all of our social media. I love talking to people about what we do for a living. We actually have an intern that is with us the last couple of weeks who is working with one of our venues in Aberdeen, Scotland. Mm-hmm. And she's from Tulsa, but she was studying abroad over in Aberdeen and was hooked up with P&J Live, which is the venue that ASM manages out there. And so she's been with our team for the last few weeks. So we have opportunities like that as well. For folks that are interested in just learning more about the industry and engaging with us.
Yeah, if you're interested in more than just what's going on here in Tulsa, ASMGlobal.com. That's the company, the firm that we work with, manages over 357 plus facilities all over the world. And obviously the ones here in Tulsa, but also Oklahoma City. So always looking for great people. We're both members of the International Association of Venue Managers, which is another great starting point, especially if you're interested in finding an access point into the industry. They've got a lot of great community outreach and education and things like that. In fact, we're going to be hosting their Region 6.
Yep, the Future Leaders Conference in January.
So if you are in the Oklahoma area and you're interested in like more, that's I guess another opportunity to check out the industry.
Amazing. Well, thank you guys so much for sharing. I really appreciate it. For everyone listening, it's time to rock the BOK, right?
There you go. Awesome.
We'll catch you next episode. Cheers.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hope you guys enjoyed that great episode. Thank you so much for listening. As always, huge shout out to our sponsors, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, sharing Oklahoma story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com and follow them on Instagram for daily updates at oklahomahof. Our other sponsor, the Chickasaw Nation, amazing sponsor. They do amazing things for the state, and they're always sponsoring something in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma, and without their support, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. And finally, our third sponsor for today, the Oklahoma 988 Mental Health Lifeline. 988 is the direct 3-digit lifeline that connects you with the trained behavioral health professionals that can get all Oklahomans the help that they need. Learn more by visiting 988oklahoma.com. It's 988oklahoma.com. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. We are inspired by those around us and hope that you are too. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review so we can keep telling your stories. For more great Oklahoma content, follow This Is Oklahoma on Facebook and Instagram.